What's going on, everyone? Finally, welcome back to TTP Sports after a long hiatus of not making any videos whatsoever because I wanted to focus on the semester. I just wanted to get everything good grades as possible. But now that the semester's all wrapped up, I can finally get back to talking about Philadelphia sports. But sadly, the timing is a little weird because it's May and there's no really other Philadelphia sports going on besides the Phillies. And then you have the NHL and the NBA playoffs are really about to start to get into the last series of their playoffs with the Stanley Cup Finals and the NBA Finals about to happen at least around next week. So, but it doesn't matter. I'm still going to be here talking about sports, Philadelphia sports, and just sports news in general. So, without further ado, let's talk about some Phillies right now. So, right now, the Philadelphia Phillies, they are in first place in the NL East. They have a 28-19 record. They are 2.5 games above the Braves right now, who are starting to creep behind them. After the Phillies had at least, I think, a 4 game lead, but now it's down to 2.5 because the Braves are just starting to get hot and they're starting to win games. In this stretch right now that the Phillies are in, they're playing a lot of tough teams in the NL Central. So right now they're playing the Cubs. They're going to go to Milwaukee. Then they're going to come back home against the Brewers. Then they're going to go on a West Coast trip against LA. So that's going to be a tough stretch for the Phils, and this will really show what this team is right now, and if they can keep this lead in first place. So let's talk about the Phillies statistics as a whole. I don't know why that was so hard to say. So, so average leaders right now, Gene Segura, who has been an amazing pickup for the Phillies from Seattle. It's been a really good acquisition by Matt Klentak and the Phils. Right now, Gene Segura has a 318 batting average. And the dude just knows how to hit. He knows how to use the field at left, center, and right. And he just knows how to get on base. And for his size, he knows how to run. So it was a really good acquisition. And his defense is really good too. So really good acquisition by Matt Klentak and the Phils right there. And then leading batting average is Cesar Hernandez, who struggled a bit in the beginning of the year with hitting because he was getting used to hitting down in the lineup instead of where he's used to hitting in the top of the lineup for previous years. But now he's starting to get used to his role as a 6th, 7th man, and he's running away with it. He has a 310 batting average, and like yesterday, what I saw, he had at least 3 hits, and he just knew how to get on. He just knew how to utilize the field, and when he goes up there, I don't think he's afraid to hit the ball. I think he just wants to get the ball and play to make sure he gets on base for other people to have opportunities to drive him in. So like last night, he had a triple and he had 2 singles, I think. So even though his IQ in the field can be a bit off sometimes, and by sometimes I mean most of the time, uh, he still has been one of our better hitters till lately. So then we have our home run leaders, Rhys Hoskins, who has been up and down to start the season. He got off to a really hot start, but then he went cold. Then he got hot again. Then right now he's in a little bit of a slump. So I trust Rhys to get back into a little bit of a hot streak. That's just the player he is. He gets hot and cold, hot and cold. So that's really all we can expect from him. And now being more comfortable back at first base, so we can rely on him to be the 4-hole power hitter that we need. And then the big acquisition, Bryce Harper, 13 years, at least $300 million. And I'm not going to be that guy saying he's a waste of money because he wasn't a waste of money. We should have all expected that he was going to go through some kind of slump. It just the slump that he's in right now, it's probably the worst of his career. He's striking out way more than he usually does. But one thing, he still knows how to work the count, and he's not letting this slump get into his head. Like, he still knows how to get on base by walking, and it's not affecting his play in the field. Like last night, there was a bases loaded, pop fly to Bryce Harper, and he was able to gun the guy out at home. So, just it's a good thing that it's not mentally affecting Bryce Harper to this extent. It's just he needs to get a couple hits in there, and I think his hitting will be fine, and he'll get better from this. I trust Bryce Harper to get out of the slump and become the all-star elite player that we all have known to love. And then the next leading home run person is Maikel Franco, who had a really big start to the year, being the eighth hole guy, and we expected that was the spot for Franco that probably would help him a lot more with his hitting, but now he's come back down to earth. He has like at least a 220 batting average right now. He has 8 home runs, so he's in a bit of a really cold slump, but that's just the type of player Franco is. He's like Hoskins, but I think Franco, his cold streaks and his hot streaks last longer than Reese's. So right now, I think Franco's just in a really big extended cold streak. So hopefully he can find a way to get out of that. And then we have our RBI leaders. Reese Hoskins has 36. Bryce Harper has 31. And then off-season trade acquisition JT Realmuto, he has 29. One of the best catchers in baseball. I'm really glad we picked this guy up. And yeah, that's basically it. JT Realmuto is just a great player. That's all I can describe about him. And then wins leader, surprisingly, Zach Eflin. He has 5 right now, and he leads the staff with wins. He's had a really solid start to the season. And in between those, he's thrown a couple complete games with those. Just most of the starts where he wins, he's really dominating the opposition. Like, no one can score against him, and he's preventing players from getting on base. And when he gets into jams, he gets out of those. So I don't see type of any type of like lack of confidence from Zach Eflin. I see him go out there. He's getting the people out. He's just all confidence right now. There's nothing getting into his head. And then yeah, he's had most of it. The starts where he loses, he does give up a lot of runs. So just hopefully you can pray one night Zach Eflin goes out there and he's dominant form Zach Eflin instead of a guy that allows at least 5 runs a game. But right now, he's also the ERA leader with our team. He has a 2.89 ERA. And yeah, he's been our best pitcher so far. And then the rest of the win leaders tied right now are Nola and Arrieta. Aaron Nola, he hasn't been the Aaron Nola that finished third place in the Cy Young voting last year. He got off to a bit of a slow start, but I'm confident in Aaron Nola right now that he'll get back into that ace form and be the pitcher that we need for the rest of the season, who did finish third in the Cy Young voting last year. And right now, he's 4-0, so he hasn't registered a loss yet. So he hasn't pitched games where he gave us, where he lost the game for us. It's usually the offense picking him up when he is struggling. So that is one good sign with this team, that some nights when a pitcher struggles, our offense is there to back it up. And then Jake Arrieta, he had a little solid start to the season, but then after calling out the team for not showing up the ball games, not playing proper defense, he's starting to struggle a little bit again. So, but last night was a good sign going back to Chicago Wrigley Field, where he hasn't pitched there in 2 years since 2017. He had a really solid outing. He went 6 innings, and he got himself into some jams, and he was able to get out of it. So it was a really solid performance from Jake Arrieta, and hopefully he can build off that. And then, besides Eflin with the ERA leaders, Jared Eichhoff, who has been surprisingly a really good back end starter for us. He has a 3.23 ERA, and with the really big struggles of Nick Pivetta and Vince Velasquez, Jared Eichhoff has been really solid for us. He's gotten some solid starts, but he's also lost a couple games. So I'm more confident in Jared Eichhoff than in Nick Pivetta or Vince Velasquez. And also, with Velasquez injured, we have called up Cole Orvin from AAA Lehigh Valley, and he's given us a couple solid starts. He's 2-0 right now. In his first start against Kansas City, he was really good, and in his second start against the Rockies, he was really good. So, hopefully, Cole Orvin can really get a really good stretch going right here. He hasn't lost a game in a while, apparently. I'm not sure how many starts he's won in a row, but like going back down to AAA, even last season, he hasn't lost a start, I think, since the last August. I think that's what it is. So he's putting himself a good stretch of games right here from Lehigh Valley to the MLB right now. So hopefully he can keep it up. And I want to talk about just the Phillies as a whole right now, because this, even though we are in first place 20-19, the games really haven't been exciting. Like, yeah, there has been a lot of exciting games with the team this season, but there was a lot of other stressful games where we put ourselves into a bad situation that where we shouldn't have been. So, like with the offense, there's a lot of games where the offense, everyone is clicking and the offense is right up here. But then there's also a lot of games where the offense just isn't clicking, everyone can't do anything, and it's down here. There's never an in between. It's always high or it's always extremely low. And then with the pitching, same thing. Always extremely high or extremely low. There's no in between. And that's just the basis of this whole team right now. It's inconsistency. It's either everyone's clicking or no one's clicking. And that's what I'm seeing right now. But we're mostly getting games where at least everyone's clicking or some people are clicking, but we rarely see that like in between where a few players are clicking while the rest aren't. But what do I know? So, and then I haven't been really complaining about Gabe Kapler lately. There's really only been like one or two games where it was probably Gabe Kapler's fault, but really none of these games. I think Gabe Kapler has made better decisions than you had been last year. I think he's starting to get used to being a manager, and I think he's getting used to making the right calls and right decisions. But there are some times where he probably leaves in a reliever there for too long, or he decides to bring in the wrong pitcher. So, and that also ties into the bullpen. Our back end of the bullpen is really questionable right now. Our best guy in the back end is Hector Neris. Even though he stresses me out every time he goes out there to get a save, he does manage to get the job done. And then also one of our other better bullpen relievers is Adam Morgan, surprisingly. And then Sir Anthony Dominguez, I have no idea what's wrong with this kid. I know last night he put in a really good seventh inning against the Cubs, but I think he only should have pitched the seventh inning, and that goes against Gabe Kapler. I don't know why he decided to keep Sir Anthony in the game, where he allowed two walks to start the inning, then he allowed the triple. The triple, which led to the Cubs scoring 3 runs and taking a 4-3 lead. So that goes against Gabe Kapler, but I really don't know what is wrong with Sir Anthony Dominguez. Maybe he needs some time back down in AAA to get his confidence back up, but who knows right now. And then we had our recent acquisition from the offseason, David Robertson. He's injured, so we really don't know his timetable. Even though he had a really rough start to the season, something that he is was really struggling with, and then he knows he's better than that, but right now he's injured, and we really don't know the timetable when he's returning. And then we got Tommy Hunter, who has been injured since the beginning of the season. We really don't know his timetable. And then Pat Neshek, he has been solid at times, but there's just something with me about Pat Neshek that stresses me out when he goes out to the mound. I know most of the time he's out there, he's dominant, he's dealing, but then there's just like that one time where he leaves that one pitch right down the middle, and someone can just easily send it out of the ballpark. And it's most of the times I watch Pat Neshek, that's when it happens, when someone just crushes the ball out of the ballpark. So I really don't know what to say right now about the bullpen. I do think the bullpen does need a little help, especially in the back end, because there are just some relievers who just can't get it done. And like, I don't want to blame Kapler on like bringing so many different guys to like in different situations, but he really doesn't have a choice at this point. So, but right now, I'm more confident in the Phillies than I was last year. I expect this team to at least get better as the season progresses. I expect Bryce Harper to get 10 times better than he is right now. And I know and I trust Bryce Harper because he's done it before. He did it last year when he was in a big slump with the Nationals. Then he finished the season as an all-star with an amazing... He finished the season last season with a 300 average at least, and he got one of his best RBI seasons last year. I expect Rhys Hoskins to get back on his hot streak. I expect a lot of players just to continue what they're doing right now. I expect Segura to continue what he's doing. Hopefully Cesar continues what he's doing with the 310 batting average. Hopefully that remains consistently at least near 300. And then, yeah, I expect it. Aaron Nola, I do expect to get better. He's not the Aaron Nola from last year, but he will be. I think his previous start against Colorado shown that he could be the Aaron Nola of last year. Zach Eflin, hopefully he can remain as consistent as he's been this year. Jake Arrieta, just same thing, consistency. And we really don't know what's going to happen when Vince Velasquez comes back from injury, what's going to happen with Cole Irvin, what's going to happen with Jared Eichhoff. Maybe they'll take this and put Vince Velasquez into the bullpen, because I really feel like that's where Velasquez belongs, as a bullpen that can pitch just a couple innings. So, yeah, what are your guys' thoughts on the Phillies so far this season? Where do you think they should be right now? Like, do you expect them with the record they have right now, or do you expect them to be better, or did you expect them to be a little bit worse? Are you expecting more from Bryce Harper? Because, come on, I believe a lot of you are expecting way more from Bryce Harper. Are you expecting more from Rhys Hoskins? And just what are you expecting more from this lineup in general and the team in general? So, don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section, and I'll see you in the next video.